Donald Trump dismisses people who try to offer a different point of view, and then he goes out onto his Truth Social and disparages them as well. So I think that it's an absolute.
The U.S. election, along with COVID-19, were two of the most censored events in recent public history. So we know that from the Hunter Biden laptop,
all right,
from the Russia. That's out there.
Well, let's get some other reaction, because you're sitting there looking hugely skeptical.
I am
you
very
look like you're about to jump across the table at me.
This Trump supporter just destroyed a UK TV host on live television, and honestly, it was almost painful to watch. See, you might be familiar with people who adore Obama's charm or Lincoln's legendary speeches, but Trump's fans? Oh, they're on a whole different level, aggressive, unfiltered, and packing arguments like a verbal freight train. Disrespect them, and you're not getting a polite rebuttal. You're getting a reality check served cold.
Then he was talking about people like you, Joe. He was talking about CNN. He was talking about mainstream media, which is there to hold governments to account and to spread light onto issues that he is talking about. That is a really, really concerning movement.
This TV host probably thought it was just another run-of-the-mill broadcast, but nope. She stepped over the line, and the humiliation that followed was a masterpiece of absolute destruction. It all kicked off with London's very own Sadiq Khan, the Twitter-loving mayor who seems to have a personal vendetta against Trump.
The mayor of London, and there's certainly been some toing and froing in terms of exchanges between Donald Trump and Sadiq Khan in the past. An important reminder, he tweets today, for Londoners: our city is and will always be for everyone. We will always be pro-women, pro-diversity, pro-climate and pro-human rights. These are some of the values that will continue to bind us together as Londoners. How do you react to that?
Khan's latest jab was a sanctimonious tweet about how London is pro-women, pro-diversity, pro-climate and pro-human rights, which, let's be honest, was just a not-so-subtle dig at Trump's values. The Republican guest wasn't about to let that slide. She brushed off Khan's tweet as insane, pointing out the sheer hypocrisy lurking beneath all that self-righteous posturing, and then she went in for the kill. She reminded everyone about Khan's antics during Trump's 2018 visit to London, where instead of using the moment to promote diplomacy, he opted for cheap theatrics, approving that infamous Trump baby blimp to float over the city.
Question to ask now themselves, to look internally and ask why it is someone as eminently qualified as Kamala Harris lost to somebody, as Gary had said, who has a convicted criminal, has mocked disabled people, has worsened women's rights, and has accused immigrants of eating dogs. How is it we've got into this position?
Genius move. If your goal is to embarrass your city on the world stage, she slammed Khan for missing an opportunity to show true leadership, instead turning what could have been a moment of inclusivity into a global spectacle of pettiness. The panel, already looking uncomfortable, wasn't ready for what came next. She turned up the heat by bringing up Khan's own track record of divisiveness. This is the same guy who dismissed Sean Bailey, a black candidate for London mayor, just because he supported Trump, she said, delivering the kind of knockout argument that makes panelists wish they could hit the mute button. Her point was clear. Khan, the supposed champion of diversity, had no problem undermining it when it didn't align with his agenda. The room, already squirming, tried to shift the conversation, but the damage was done. She'd turned Khan from a symbol of inclusivity into a poster child for liberal hypocrisy.
We know that when history looks back on this moment, we can hold our head up high and say that we are on the right side of history.
And then, as if that wasn't enough, the conversation took an even sharper turn thanks to a conservative MP. Yes, someone from the so-called right wing. This genius decided to chime in with a sneering remark about Trump voters, calling them backward Americans. Oh, but he didn't stop there. He doubled down, painting them as stuck in the 1950s, a polite way of saying culturally irrelevant. It was condescending, elitist, and tailor-made for the Republican guests to tear apart.
with no disrespect meant to anybody, but if you have a sort of slightly old-fashioned type of way of sorry, I'm not trying to.
We're still on the same team, Kristen. And
Sure.
She didn't miss a beat. Backward Americans? She repeated, her tone dripping with disbelief. You mean the farmers, factory workers, and small business owners who literally keep your lives running while you sit here in your cozy echo chambers and judge them? Ouch. The MP's smug grin disappeared faster than his credibility. She wasn't just defending Trump's base, she was exposing the snobbery of an elite class that couldn't comprehend why middle America had turned its back on them. But she didn't stop at calling out classism. Oh no, she went further. These are the people putting food on your table, manufacturing the goods you rely on, and you have the audacity to call them backward, she said, her voice slicing through the room like a hot knife through butter. The panel, which had started out confident and condescending, was now visibly rattled. The MP, who had thrown his insult with such casual arrogance, looked like he wanted to sink into his chair.
Donald Trump dismisses people who try to offer a different point of view, and then he goes out onto his Truth Social and disparages them as well. So I think that it's an absolute farce.
And after this statement, just when you thought she might ease up, she went for the jugular. She dismantled the idea that Trump supporters were some monolithic group of rural caricatures. Instead, she painted them as a coalition of people, rural, urban, working class, who were fed up with being dismissed and ignored. You think mocking them proves your superiority, but all you're doing is proving their point, that the elites in power have nothing but contempt for the people they're supposed to serve, she said. It was brutal, and it landed hard. Even the host, who was desperately trying to keep things on track, couldn't hide their discomfort. The conversation spiraled into chaos as the panelists scrambled to recover, but it was too late. One of them tried to mumble something about Trump's divisive rhetoric, but she wasn't having it. Divisive? You're calling millions of Americans backward, and you want to talk about divisive? Give me a break, she shot back. The room went quiet, the smug superiority of the UK elites crumbling under the weight of her arguments. But this wasn't the only time a Trump supporter stepped up to give the media a reality check. We've got another instance as well.
However, I think it's totally irrelevant. I mean, it was so long ago, and I do believe that most men will talk about women in ways that they would never talk about publicly.
So, it all started with the UK host doing what they do best, setting a trap, baited and ready. They went straight for Trump's infamous locker room comments, a tired, overused weapon guaranteed to stir outrage. Yes, they asked this question with all the subtlety of a tabloid headline. You could practically see the smugness radiating off them, confident that this was it, the mic drop moment where the Trump supporter would flounder. First, she acknowledged the obvious. Yes, the comments were offensive.
Yes, but that is wrong, absolutely. But here's the thing, he's not running to be the Pope. Look at the culture of our country.
No one's arguing that. But then, with the kind of poise that leaves critics fumbling for words, she dismissed the entire premise as irrelevant. It was so long ago, she said, swatting away their outrage like an annoying fly. And then she dropped the hammer. He's not running to be the Pope. That line was a slap of cold reality. Trump wasn't here to win a morality contest. He was running to lead a fractured, chaotic nation.
Everybody knew he had strip clubs, but still the millions of people chose him to be the nominee. I mean, this is the kind of person that needs to lead our country. God can use anybody. He used the harlots.
And then, just when you thought she was done, she cranked it up a notch and brought in theology. Drawing a parallel to flawed biblical figures like King David, she argued that imperfect people could still achieve extraordinary things. God uses imperfect people to achieve great things, she said, leaving the host looking like they'd just been handed a Bible quiz they didn't study for. Suddenly, this wasn't just a debate about Trump. It was a debate about purpose, redemption, and the bigger picture. The host, stuck in their loop of moral outrage, looked petty, even clueless, as she effortlessly shifted the conversation to higher stakes.
And that's the thing. It's all about what God can do. God can do this. God can use this man.
But you know, the things that we've
it's all a part of it.
From this adult man who is running to be president of the United States, millions of children heard that, boys and girls. And boys may take their cues.
Bill Clinton was president. When Bill Clinton was president, my children came home from school and they had no idea it was actually called the Oval Office. They thought it was called the Oral Office.
And she wasn't done taking shots. The media itself became her next target. With surgical precision, she called out their obsession with character assassination. "Why are you so fixated on his personal life when the country's falling apart?" she asked, hitting them where it hurt. The host, visibly rattled, scrambled for a response, but it was too late. The tables had turned, and the trap they'd set was now closing in on them. But wait, there's more. Just when the host thought the worst was over, she hit them with the final bombshell.
Vicky, Bill Clinton isn't running for president right now.
Exactly.
We're talking about Hillary Clinton.
No, but his wife is. His wife is. And they are a pair. The two are one.
Switching gears with ease, she brought up Hillary Clinton's policies, particularly Roe v. Wade. And she didn't hold back. Using the phrase, dismembering babies, she unleashed an emotional argument that left the panel momentarily speechless. The room's carefully curated moral outrage suddenly had a new focal point, and it wasn't Trump. The conversation had shifted so far off course that the hosts seemed to lose their grip entirely. She pressed her advantage, doubling down on Trump as a champion of religious freedom and pro-life values. This wasn't just a defense of Trump, it was a passionate plea for issues she claimed mattered to millions of Americans. The host tried to push back, but their responses were weak, scattered, and frankly, embarrassing. The Trump supporter had done more than hold her ground. She'd turned the host into the poster child for everything wrong with the media, out of touch, fixated on scandals, and dismissive of real issues.